Hey, good evening, Saints fans and Hootats from all over the world. This is Kyle T. Mosley here with the Bayou Blitz podcast. I have two of the greatest co-hostess in the world. I have Mr. Bob Rose here. What's going on, Bob?
Not much, Kyle. I hope you and your family are doing well. Anybody that's tuning in, we want to thank you for taking some time out of your evening to join us, and thankful to you for joining us. And I hope everybody is doing well out there.
Yeah, definitely. It is hot here in H-Town, but also we have Mr. Brendan the Butler Borland. What's going on, Bren?
Nothing much. It's warm out here in Atlanta as well, and with numbers spiking across the country, I just hope both of you guys and all the viewers, you and your families, are staying safe and healthy.
Yeah, everybody, please stay safe. It's debatable should you mask up or not. I'll leave that up to you, but just be safe out there. And we have a special guest that will be joining us tonight. I see you, Bob. We have Mr. Kyle Turley. He will be in the studio pretty soon. So you guys sit tight. And before Kyle joins us on the air, let's talk a little bit about the Saints and what's been going on recently in the world of the National Football League, man. So training camps, Bob and Brendan, pretty much is on the horizon. We had the Saints and NFL, they're still trying to work out what's going to happen with some of these protocols that release some information about the media, how we're going to be able to cover the games. They had some information about the families and the players being tested. NFLPA has pushed back on some of the information that is being put out there. The owners want some escrow money for the players to be able to put their salaries into escrow. Never heard of that before, but I just want to get your thoughts, Bob, a little bit about what's going on right now and how do you feel about what's going to progress with the National Football League this season?
Well, listen, first and foremost, I agree that player safety should come first, with spectator and fan safety being a very, very close second. So I understand some of the protocols being put out there right now. Some of them seem to be almost oxymoronish in their level. Such as something that, gentlemen, I know you saw it yesterday too. That the NFL put out there that they were going to prohibit players from shaking hands and exchanging jerseys after games, thinking that was going to increase safety. Despite the fact that these very same players would have spent the last 3.5 to 4 hours in very, very close physical contact with each other. So stuff like that makes you laugh. But beyond that, we all know that it's not a laughing matter, and we're keeping our fingers crossed. There's a growing undertone that there may not be an NFL season at all. I still find that incredibly difficult to believe that that's going to take place. I think it's more likely that the league perhaps could eliminate preseason altogether, or perhaps could proceed into the regular season without any fan attendance, at least for the first portion. I hope neither one of those things happen, but I think that we'll definitely see that kind of thing happen before the NFL just says, you know what, we're just not going to have a season altogether. Listen, it is still a business first and foremost. These men and women involved in the business realize that there's so much money at stake, and this country in general is trying so hard to get back to a state of normalcy. And what more normalcy is there in our society, than our sports? We know that a large portion of the American public, of the world, of the international public, really, loves their sports so much, with football being at the top of the list for the United States of America. So again, at this point in time, I wouldn't be willing to lay a cent down that the NFL would not have a regular season. But it is starting to get scary, and even those of us that are doing this for a living, we're sort of on pins and needles to find out what happens next, because honestly, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. I'm very concerned, and I will let you guys know that I am very concerned as far as how to cover the New Orleans Saints going forward. What are going to be those exact procedures? I know we won't get an opportunity to interview the players after games or in the locker rooms, but still, how do we handle this as a media in the press boxes and things to that nature as well? So that's going to be kind of an interesting situation going forward for us. Brendan, what are some of your takeaways going into this week and what you've heard about the NFL?
Well, I think I've said it before, is the NFL's in a good situation to play because they get to see how the NBA does with their bubble. They get to see how the MLS does with their bubble. So they get to kind of just sit back and wait, because they could realistically push this as far back as September and just start in the regular season. However, seeing some positive tests come back in the NBA, in that bubble, seeing 2 MLS teams already being sent home and not being allowed to partake in the tournament because numerous multiple tests, it has some people on pins and needles. But to agree with Bob, I don't foresee the NFL season not happening. And I've said it before as well, that if there was one sport I had to put my money on continuing to play as normal, it's going to be the NFL. Now, college sports, whole different story. I still have no idea how you're going to have kids live in dorms and go out on Fridays and Saturdays and then still come back and play sports. But for the NFL, there's a lot of precautions in play. I think more than anything, we just have to sit back, wait, and see, and that's what the NFL is doing as well.
Yeah, sit back, wait and see what's going to happen. But guys, we have our special guest in the queue, in the studio, waiting for us. Man, he is one of my all-time favorite Saints, not only because he has one of the best names in the world, Kyle, and it's Kyle T also, but he is, man, he was just one of my favorite players, and I loved him, and I felt really bad when we traded him, man. So welcome to the Bayou Blitz, Mr. Kyle Turley himself. What's going on, Kyle?
How we doing? Good to be with y'all, man. I appreciate it.
Well, man, thank you for joining us this evening. And you have Bob Rose, one of our writers, as well as Brendan Borland here to join to talk with you a little bit this evening. And I know the fans have been waiting to hear from you as well. So let's just get it started, man. How's everything in California right now?
It's hot. I know that's not anything to Louisianans, but it's getting warmed up out here this summer, and then, you know, all the crazy madness going on. But we've got millions of people here, so you can kind of get lost. So it's a good place to be during all this.
Yeah, definitely. Man, look, one of the things that I loved about you was how you took care of business on the field, right? And I was talking to Mike Detillier, and Mike gave me some background information. He said that Mike Ditka loved you. He thought you were the cat's meow. What was your relationship with Mike Ditka that year you were playing under him?
Well, I had 2 great years under him. You know, I can't say great, but for me, they were great. I mean, I was playing football for Mike Ditka. You know, being drafted by Mike Ditka was just unreal. I had no idea that the Saints were going to pick me. I had taken trips to Atlanta, Philly, Miami, and Dallas. And so I really had and Atlanta. And I had no idea that I could go that high in the draft. And it was because of Mike Ditka. You know, I really impressed that man at the combine and did what I was supposed to do, what they're looking for. And it goes to show you, if you prepare and you show up when you have those opportunities, and you take advantage of, every bit of it. It's too many guys now are showing up to these combines and saying, I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do that. And, I came from San Diego State University as an offensive lineman. If I would have went to USC, Miami, any of those other schools, I very well may have been, and it's arguable I could have been the first pick, even above Peyton Manning in that draft, for what I accomplished coming from San Diego State at the offensive line position. To be the 7th pick in the NFL draft was an unbelievable honor, that lucky 7, and then to get that call from Mike Ditka. I mean, that's an NFL kid's dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one thing to just get that call, period. But when Mike Ditka calls your house, and you're from this little small town out here in Southern California in the desert, and you just had a dream of playing, you had the sheets, you had the curtains, all the NFL stuff, and this is just some untouchable, iconic legend, and he's calling your home, your mother's house. Crazy.
Wow. He had you pegged a whole month in advance that he was going to take you, man.
I had no idea, completely in the dark. I'm grateful I didn't live in social media land and grow up there.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, I don't know if we had much social media back then, but man, I love the pick. I thought you were a great player, and I thought you really exemplified what New Orleans was about. We're common people, man, but we're hardworking people. We love, people, and we love people who protect their quarterbacks, and that's what you did as well. We'll talk a little bit about that. Bob, any question for Kyle Turley?
Well, Kyle, first and foremost, you were one of the most intense football players I have ever seen. And for that reason, you were one of my favorites as well. Truly a legend. And you talk about a legend in Mike Ditka. You certainly established yourself as a legend in New Orleans Saints history, and part of a legendary team too. That terrific 2000 Saints team that seemingly came out of nowhere. So talk about what that was. It was like you guys obviously had confidence in yourself in the locker room. And once you went out there and started to just physically beat up opponents on the football field, went from I think 3-13 to your 10-6 dream football playoff run. So talk about what the culture was like in that locker room.
It was a great culture. We had a tremendous locker room, obviously a bunch of misfits that came together to accomplish something great. And it was a testament to the coaches and the hard work. I mean, we didn't have the luxuries that a lot of these teams have. We would go fly to Jacksonville and these other teams with all these brand new stadiums and facilities. And, airline was nice back then, I guess, step up from the trailers they used to have. But we still had training camp in Thibodaux, Louisiana at Nicholls State. We try to tell these old guys that because they bring that up when we're around them, like, well, you guys never had to go to Thibodaux. And we're like, yeah, Benson brought us back there. So it was an unbelievable experience. I had a great opportunity to, be in an area I had no clue about and learn about life and grow up in those pivotal years around such amazing people, as you mentioned. And it was still to this day. I mean, my wife and I, if it wasn't for the hurricanes and, the $10,000 a year private school ticket versus going to just chaotic public schools, I guess, or maybe it's fear mongering. I don't know. I should look into it more. We'd have moved our family there and raised our kids there. It was a special place for me, and I cherish all my opportunities. And we got to a point, unfortunately, where the business of football got in the way, and that real critical moment where we had it all, and that was what was so frustrating about the end of my days in New Orleans, is that we had it all, and we just let it disintegrate because of the business side of football. It was, we gave Aaron Brooks all this money, and then we have Jake Delhomme, and he's ready to take us there. We could have went to the Super Bowl long before Drew Brees came to town, and that was real, and that really affected our locker room when that started to dissolve from what we had here, and what we built there with Jim Haslett and Randy Mueller, and then this weirdness just unfolded that we all kind of got pulled into as players because the Benson family was just so weird, man. I mean, we had Rita, who's in the locker room basically like it's the Major League movie with the Indians, with
Yeah.
I mean, literally, the most crazy things where we just couldn't focus. And like a player like me who worked so hard to get there, worked so hard in the off season to really be there, and to see this business side creep into what the New Orleans Saints fans wanted and what we wanted as players was really frustrating. And so, I was unfortunately a young man at the time and not mature in my ways, and, voiced those opinions publicly, and they put me on the block,
Yeah.
And Kyle, you bring up a great point, and I did want to ask you about that. And certainly it's a touchy subject. When you look back on it now, how would you? And obviously we're all older, except young Mr. Boylan over there. And we can all look back on situations and think to ourselves how we would have handled it differently. But if you could take the Kyle Turley mentality now and put it in the Kyle Turley athlete back then, how would you have handled those distractions differently?
Good question.
It's a bigger answer, I guess, to that question, just because of things that have happened in my life now that allow me to have more control and ability. I don't think at the time I was even capable of making good decisions. I put that out there on display. Off the field, I was fine because I worked so hard and I just went home and, didn't do anything outside of a divorce. And I lived on Bourbon Street for a whole entire season, and experiencing that. I was, just hard work and go home and rest. And I wish I would have just kept doing that, getting through all this business nonsense. It carried over then into me thinking that when you're a highly drafted player, given a lot of money, you have more say. And I didn't understand the position of the majority of the players in the NFL and the demand for me at the time to really grow up. It wasn't until my latter years in Kansas City when I made my comeback after a bad back injury playing with the Rams that I played for league minimum with a split contract. I couldn't say anything. I was being benched because they wanted to try this other guy they put more money into. And, these scenarios that I knew I was in, similar to, New Orleans. And then when I went to St. Louis even and saw, the Kurt Warner and Mark Bulger scenario unfold in front of me, I was now living in that. And if I could go back, I would just, have just stayed the course. The one pivotal thing was when, after I threw the helmet, all the media came at me and were demanding my time. And that's the one thing I would change, is I would have closed the door on the media and got back to being me as a football player. And I think just too many guys get sucked into that. It went from me then getting a first class ticket flight out to LA to be on the Best Damn Sports Show. And then, then the Best Damn Sports Show wants you to do side work for them all the time. And now they want you to do shows because you're articulate and you can speak well and you surf and you do all these different things that the NFL wants to expose off the field. And, I just should have set that aside and just stuck to playing football and, maximizing my ability and time there and my craft. I would have stayed in New Orleans. I was working on that contract. Randy Mueller had that contract in front of my agent before he then got taken away from that. And then Mickey Loomis took. Just unfortunately went downhill for me. And if I go back, I just would have never got on the plane and went to LA. And, that's where I think agents and teams and everybody should just really step in those scenarios and take those players away from the media. What happened to Ricky, what happened to me, we should have been guided better. And, Mike Ditka maybe would have helped us in that regard. I don't know. He's on the cover of Sports Illustrated with, a prom dress and everything else, a wedding dress. Yeah. I don't know, man, just stayed with football. That was why I was there. And I allowed the business side and media side of football to really infiltrate my mind, and then football mind with a battered brain. That's not a good place to be.
Yeah. Well, look, that's what my wife says all the time. You got a battered brain, old man. But let's see. Paul T has a question for you. Let's see. He said, Kyle, where do you get your work ethic from? Because you are a tough opponent. How did you get that working background? Where did that come from?
Grew up blue collar background. My dad was a truck driver and a farmer. I was born in Utah. We lived on cattle ranches till I was 6. I was doing work since I could walk, and not child labor type things, but chores constantly. And then we moved to Southern California when I was 10, and my father got into law enforcement and other things, and just the discipline. And I had great mentors and coaches around me. I had just a nature about me that wanted to achieve. And so I didn't it wasn't a sacrifice for me. All these other guys around me, it seemed, had to sacrifice for their dream. And for me, it was just fun. And so I got fully into that. Like I said, one thing I could go back and do, and it was that I lost that, and so I was just driven naturally, and I had great coaches around me, a lot of inspiration, a lot of influential things that happened along the way of individuals that I had great examples to look at and be coached by, to real tragedies that took place that made me have to think a little bit harder about life and, what it was that I wanted to do with my own. When we're faced with adversity, whether that's a parent's divorce or, my coach's daughter, right when we get there, and all this entire time at San Diego State was going on. I'm going in and out of the hospital almost every other day of the week, helping my coach deal with the scenario from his daughter having a car accident that she ultimately, passed away from, over years that she was in this scenario to try and rehabilitate that. We're dealing with that through the whole time. And then to see that loss happen actually before I got out of college and go through that with my coach, who was a 17-year NFL veteran, Ed White, played 4 Super Bowls with the Vikings and all these things. It was just an incredible mentor to me. The side of life that you don't get, I guess, until you go through stuff like that, where you see these things, take place in front of you, and you lose people, and you have incidents happen where you grow and you learn. And it was just an all-around blue-collar experience for me. I had no privilege growing up outside of whatever people believe this to be. It's may have worked out a couple times in some traffic stops. Outside of that, I've been to jail.
Too funny, man. Oh, wow. Any questions for Kyle?
Yeah, I wanted to go a little bit outside of football and in your music career. You've opened up for a lot of big names. How much did New Orleans influence your music career, at least the time while you were there?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when I got, music was always a part of my life. Grew up surfing, and so picked up a guitar through my surfing buddies. Stereotypical, scenario of being at the beach with a guitar. And so music was always an interest of mine. I got into this, I grew up Southern California. It was, that's where it first started, because in the late 80s, early 90s, Southern California, that's when everything exploded. Rap, punk rock, metal, everything that you see now that you just take for granted as, oh, there's somebody's got another band. I was in that innovation period of being able to see these bands firsthand, for the first time. And then when I went to college in San Diego, at San Diego State, having the opportunity as a lineman, of course, I'm working security for my job, outside of my scholarship. And so I get to work all these concerts and be backstage with all these people. When I got to New Orleans, it just carried right over. And my interest and love for the music industry as a whole, just, the backstage stuff that you don't see, that I really enjoyed. I was able to tap into in a major way, especially a heavy metal fan. New Orleans is like the birthplace of heavy metal in America. They say San Francisco with all that, but New Orleans and the blues and all these things created the distortion of metal. And, as a, young, crazy alpha white male, man, nothing was more awesome to me than listening to Slayer and Pantera. And then I get to New Orleans, and Pantera, the lead singer from Pantera, lives there. Phil Anselmo, he's been at the Saints facilities. He's a huge, I mean, everybody that lives in New Orleans is a Saints fan. So I took full advantage of that. I got into every venue for every show I wanted to see, backstage hanging out. I'd bring Saints gear. I'm friends with so many bands to this day just because of the access I had to all these killer clubs in New Orleans to just walk in and, be in these scenarios and environments with all these awesome people and get to know them. And, not just them, all their crew members who I still am great friends with, because after football, I went and moved to Nashville. My wife's from Tennessee. And, I decided to, get in the music industry. And so I did that and did that for about 5 years, toured with some amazing country artists. My background of metal and country and all this stuff, tried to blend it all together. It was what it was. I'm still doing music, and I'm actually going back to Nashville here in the next couple of weeks to record a new record. Going to take full advantage of this COVID time to get back in studio, and my health is in tremendous spot right now, and so it's allowing me to get my life back. I've done a lot of political things that put my head out there on the chopping block again, and I continue to do that. Now I'm going to focus back on my music a lot more this year. So by the end of the year, I should have another record out, and I've got 2 records out that are currently out, and I had great opportunities in New Orleans to play awesome shows, all those great venues that allowed me to get back in there after my football days and display my musical talents and abilities just the same. Was an unbelievable opportunity and honor.
Man, that's pretty cool. I have a musical background as well, man. I played sax, but you play guitar and you play another instrument, right?
I play drums as well. I play a little bass, but anything on the low end side. Yeah.
So who's doing the production work? Are you doing all the producing as well as the writing, or do you have a crew that you work with?
No, I do all the writing. This new record, thus far, I've done all the writing. Had a couple, influences, I guess, and some help along the way with some friends in the music industry to help me, figure my way out, and some great friends that have access to major studios and have recorded a lot of records. Luckily, just lucked into opportunities to, again, be around great people that you're able to click with, and then, just like football, you listen and you can be coachable. And so the new record's going to be a collaboration, I think, of, some people, but for what it was and what it is now, that my records are my books. I don't read books. I'm an art side guy, and so it's visual or it's audio for me. And I put my books on tape, so you can get my first 2 records and you can listen to them, and it's songs about my life and things that have happened that are real, and people can listen to it instead of trying to figure out what I'm saying and what I'm meaning in a few paragraphs of trying to write some stupid book that every other athlete does.
Too funny, man. Look, you need to get Bob to help you because he does a little bit of Willie Nelson from time to time, man.
All right. That's the one guy I haven't played with you.
I do like the old outlaw country for sure, Kyle.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, that's my favorite. Yeah.
All right, let's see here. All right. Can't get these guys questions up, but you have another one. Derek, he wants to know the blood and guts type player that you were on the field every game. So what are your thoughts on the passions of the players in today's NFL?
I just don't think they're being allowed the opportunity to tap into that. We were encouraged to tap into that, and they're not even encouraged, I think, anymore to tap into that alpha nature that is just natural aggression, and it's so controlled. The rules are unbelievably different from the beginning of my career in '98 to when I left in '07. I couldn't play the way I wanted to play the last 2 years of my football career. After '03 is when the hammer came down on all these rules. And it was players during our eras that created those moments. Warren Sapp decleating Chad Clifton and dislocating both of his hips, created the player, you can't hit a player away from the pile anymore rule. That's what that did. And if you're not around the play, you can't touch anybody. Whereas when we played up until then, it was a free for all. You had to keep your head on a swivel. Those types of things were mantra that you just reiterate in the back of your mind when you're running around that field, that at any moment you're going to get lit. And these kids, they can't do that anymore, so I don't think there is. It's so controlled. And I work with so many kids now, or I have worked with so many kids now doing coaching and private coaching, help training guys for the draft still, all these other things, and giving back on that knowledge. And it's lost, some of these college coaches, that's what it's because of. I think I attribute it to college coaching becoming overpaid. And so you have less quality individuals that are there. Money doesn't mean you've got a great coach there. And these guys that continue to stack this money, they're just going off of performance and numbers. And that doesn't equate in especially the offensive line position, but I don't think in football in general. And when I receive these kids, they just haven't, there's no mentorship anymore. There's no, trying to mold these guys into men. It seems it's, the collegiate level and even the high school level is become so commercialized that we and boxed in. We've lost what I was fortunate to be a part of, and why they said, "Yo, Kyle, you're like Conrad Dobler. You're the throwback." I was allowed to do that. That's why I was coached that way. That's why these kids, they don't even have a chance. I get called down to go to San Diego State to, hey, come down. I can't even put my hands on a kid in practice, and I can't talk to that young man and try to get in his mindset at all. It's so controlled, unbelievably ridiculous. And, we're here now.
Yeah.
Now, Kyle, you mentioned, and I remember the comparisons of Conrad Dobler a lot during your career, but a lot of people don't realize what a technically sound player you were too. I know Mike Ditka would rave about it, but you were able to excel at both guard positions, right tackle and left tackle, all at a Pro Bowl level. Talk about some of the differences, some of the subtle and not so subtle differences between each of those offensive line positions, and what made the transition to the different positions so difficult.
It wasn't necessarily difficult for me. I went through it in college. I had a great coach in Ed White, and he just prided us on becoming athletes and being able to get down in a right-handed stance, get in a left-handed stance. It shouldn't matter. You should figure out how you work and your mechanics work overall in general. And so my mindset, coming from a wrestling background, surfing, skateboarding, football, baseball player as well, could have went and done that. Playing another position was just, again, putting your hand in the dirt and getting dirty. And so when I got to New Orleans and they needed me at left guard, that's where I went after and learned how to play that position. That was hard because I was a tackle in college through my whole career. But again, it came back down to fundamentals, and from the background that I had, that was easy to get in there as a rookie and go against guys like Warren Sapp and all these John Randall in their prime. I mean, and I got a trial by fire. I mean, my first game in the NFL was at Lambeau Field against Reggie White, and luckily it was a preseason game, and he was out of there after a few plays, and he didn't want to touch nobody. So, I grew up in the league, came along in a real unique era. There, the late '90s, early 2000s, and the experience that I had helped me, I think, be able to play any position on the field. I came back as a tight end. People don't remember that.
I remember.
I played left tackle. I played right tackle. I got signed. I should have been signed as a tight end in Miami. I should have been a Dolphin and never even went to Kansas City. Participated in a mini camp down there as a tight end. Coming back from a serious injury, I was 255 pounds, ripped, and just ready to go after it again, and just lit up their linebackers, DBs. I didn't drop one ball the entire 3-day, 2-a-day camp under Nick Saban. And it was an issue with, how are we going to deal with each other in the media? And, and I failed that interview after everybody thought I was going to get signed. I guess I just didn't give the yes, sir answer he was looking for. But Kansas City picked me up as a tight end from that mini camp that I went through with the Dolphins. And I was going to be the third string tight end for the Chiefs in 2006 behind Tony Gonzalez and Jason Dunn. Fortunately, however you want to look at it, unfortunately for my back and the rest of my body, because I was prepping on taking maybe 10, 20 snaps a game and getting back in the league, gradually here, Willie Rofe retires 2 weeks before training camp. And Bill Kuharich, the old GM of the Saints that drafted me, was there in Kansas City and said, Kyle, we need your help. And at 200, I bulked up to 270 by the time the season started. And I played the 2006 season and had some of my best games. At about 270 pounds, playing left tackle for the Chiefs in 2006.
Yeah, was that a Pro Bowl year for you as well?
No, I didn't last that long. The injuries, and then again, I'm low on the totem pole, and so when they see you in the training room and you're struggling, then they go, oh, he needs a break, So they gave me a lot of time off and put some of these other guys they were trying to figure out for the long-term solution. So I ended up only playing about 7 games or 8 games in 2006, and I think the same in 2007 because they just kept bringing in other guys they wanted more long-term, and you become the end of career, doing that deal. Kind of thing. And so that's, ultimately it was injuries and having all those snaps, going from thinking you're going to do 10 to 20 snaps a game to doing now a guarantee of 60 to 70 snaps a game. And so then more injuries occurred. I recovered my body for the most part back from that back injury, but then blew my shoulder out. My ankle blew out, it all adds up, the more snaps you take. But I was able to do it. And I could have played linebacker. I could have played defensive end. They didn't want me. They didn't let me come back and play defensive end. I was really disappointed in the teams that didn't allow me to do that. I went to the extent of calling the Raiders. And I was 250, 260, just shredded. I was so ready to come back and play football. And I was a defensive lineman out of high school. That's what I got my scholarship to play football for. And they all knew it. And they told me, you're the next Howie Long. And, J.J. Watt before J.J. Watt. It was that scenario for me. And I called the Raiders up and said, I'm going to drive myself up and work out for you. I don't want anything from you other than opportunity to work out for you at the defensive line position. That's where I want to end my career in the NFL. And that didn't happen because of the GM, Mike Lombardi, at the time. And he said, no, Kyle, we don't have any interest in that. And none of the other teams my agent threw that out to gave me the opportunity. I had the chance at tight end. So I wish I would have had that opportunity at defense. I think I would have surprised a lot of people. They might not have wanted that. Yeah.
Interesting. Brendan, any questions for Kyle?
Yeah, Kyle, looking back at your career, and you just touched on all those injuries, and you've touched on how the game has changed over the years. How do you view player safety and player health right now in the NFL?
It's an amazing place to be as far as an athlete goes, as your health is concerned. And all the things that I've fought for over the years through the end of my career of seeing the outcome of, my injuries and all these scenarios I was witness to where players were wronged in these injury scenarios and not being able to recover. Those things have been answered. For the most part. I mean, even the concussion situation has been answered because of what I know to be the power of cannabis and what we have in the opportunity of something finally having the ability to provide neuroprotection and help protect our brains from the inside. There is something out there, and the United States government has a patent on it as a neuroprotectant, and it's allowed me to be here on this interview and be able to continue to be a member of society and not have gone down these roads I was going down. And so these players today have a tremendous opportunity to have what I've been saying for the last 10 years, longer football careers and better outcomes after the game's over.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about cannabis, right? And when I did a story on you in March, and you opened up your own cannabis dispensary in California, correct? And you also credited cannabis as far as, let me get it right, helping with the seizures, vertigo, some of the pains and anger that you had associated with football. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, football's, as everybody knows, it's a hard game. I mean, it has consequences to ramming your head. If you just went outside, I tell people, you want to know what it's like to live with CTE, go put a football helmet on that you can buy from Walmart right now and go run into a brick wall about 70 times, maybe 100 times a day, and do that for years and see what happens to your brain. Okay. Right. It's going to take a toll. There's consequence, and then the injuries. And then on top of that, unfortunately, being in the era and going back to the last question, the biggest thing that these players are going to benefit from is the opportunity that these pharmaceutical companies don't have anymore to come into the locker rooms and really use these guys as the guinea pigs that we were used for. And so from all the injuries that football just inherently, has, for you, on a platter, we weren't. And when I was in high school, I wasn't afraid of CTE. I was still afraid of dying on the football field, though. I was still afraid of blowing my knee out and being paralyzed. I mean, we knew football was a serious game and had serious consequences. Unfortunately, we just didn't have that opportunity to understand how our own bodies can help us, and that there are things out there in, not just holistic medicines and dealing with herbs like cannabis, but so many others, to diet and all of these other things now that we understand through science. And at the end of the day, for me and everybody else, that, again, I was a first-round draft pick. I went through everything the right way. I did everything right to get to where I was. I don't take anything in life otherwise. I don't take it lightly. I take everything very seriously. And so when I started to understand these benefits that I was experiencing in cannabis, I had to go further to understand why. And at the end of the day, it comes down to the science of what is in our body. It has nothing to do with this plant. And the ability that cannabinoids have that are already in our cells, that are functioning, that we can energize that through additions of implementing cannabis treatments today, are going to end the death rate in youth football, slow and potentially halt CTE from even becoming a disease in football players' brains, and continue to address our retired community, which I'm a living example of. That all those things you mentioned were a part of my life and getting worse by the day. And for the last 6 years of just using cannabis alone, I don't use anything else, not one thing, not one aspirin, not one Aleve, not for 6 years. And I've got a plate and 10 screws in my right ankle. I'm bone on bone in every joint, took 40 bone chips out of this shoulder. I've had 2 knee surgeries. I need 2 knees, they say. I need a new right hip. I need another back surgery. I need to replace 2 broken toes on my foot. I had neuropathy creeping up my legs. I wanted to cut them off. I've applied cannabis in all of these scenarios, scientifically, specifically, using THC, CBD, all of these things that you hear about, and it's real. I've cured neuropathy, plantar fasciitis, athlete's foot, all to all the arthritic pain and most of all the cognitive issues. And what I discovered about this through research and understanding is there is only one neuroprotective patent in the world that exists. And that is through United States government on cannabis as a neuroprotectant. And so, my charge in all of this has been to, have what if I could go back? We've said that a lot in this conversation here. And if I could go back with what I've found today, I might have just retired, maybe a year ago.
Yeah. What's interesting is the fact you and a lot of other guys have been turning to cannabis to be able to help them through playing in the league. I remember old Robert Parrish from the Boston Celtics. He used to talk about how weed helped him out just in his playing days, and just recently the NFL is not going to, I guess, hold it against a player if they are tested for cannabis or THC, right? Do you believe that the NFL is behind the times a little bit when it comes to the science and why cannabis could have been important for extending careers such as yours?
Well, of course, but that's just because the entire medical community is behind the times. The discovery that I uncovered that the media just continues to not really pay attention to is that the United States medical schools do not even discuss, forget the plant, again, forget this plant. It's what this plant exposes, and what it exposes is an organ inside of our body that they do not want to talk about. And it's in charge of your central nervous system. It's in charge of your immune system. In COVID-19, I've been in all this hot water here with people think that, oh, we got him now. We're going to shut his company down. The FDA send me letters. Because I've been saying it cures everything, because it has cured all these things inside of me, and I've seen it in other people's lives. And it's because of this organ inside of our body that handles our immune system, our central nervous system, and it's called the endogenous cannabinoid system. It's in the center of my brain and your brain and every person in the world's brain, every mammal's brain, in fact. And so when we're talking about these scenarios right now, even in this whole COVID-19 situation, and everybody's like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We have an answer. And it is so simple. And I've had now over 20 to 30 people that have reached out to me with positive COVID tests that I've sent CBD to alone directly. Every one of them across the country recovered rapidly, they say, because of the CBD. You've got Chris Cuomo on CNN talking about, I've got COVID-19 and CBD. I've used it and I feel better. And then you've got platforms like CNN and Sanjay Gupta, who sat at my house, sat in this room and talked to me and my mother and my wife and all these scenarios when I went on that show and exposed this conversation about cannabis. And he hasn't said a word about it. And yet studies around the world are taking place that are proving this. And all it does, again, is go back to proving the truth of the cannabinoid system. They could forget the plant. They could just extract cannabinoids from us, just like stem cells, but they don't want to talk about that either. And it's unfortunate because people like me and everybody else out there, I believe, just want to live out this life, want to live out this opportunity that we've been given by God to have this moment, to live a life. And it is too short for too many. And that doesn't have to happen.
You're right. The older you get, the more you want to learn how you can extend. And if there's anything that can help you, you want to be able to take it. Because, man, look, I tell you, my hip.
No. It is not about taking just anything. That's what got us down that road of big pharma and the millions of people that have lost their lives. We've been this culture that has been conditioned to say, well, I'll do whatever it takes. you either go the right path or the wrong path. Whatever it takes is a pathway. It is the right path. That's what it takes. You want to make it to the NFL, this is what it takes. It's not whatever it takes. This is what it takes. It takes showing up every day. It takes going the extra mile, being the bell cow, these types of things that even in life and in medicine, we're not doing. We're just going whatever it takes. COVID-19. Well, we don't know why hydroxychloroquine works. We'd have no idea why it works. We just know that it possibly works. Well, we know why the cannabinoid system works. They just don't want to talk to us about it. They know why stem cells work. They just don't want to talk to us about it. And enough people have come and gone that have exposed this. And we still are in this same, rut. And cannabis is the one thing that can get us out of it, because it's not about weed. It's not about pot. It's about that no matter who the person is in front of me that's talking to me, they have a level of THC in their system. That's why drug tests have a level of THC. And we are made of cannabis, cannabinoids. Our entire genetic makeup is made of cannabinoids. They don't want to talk to us about this. I don't understand it. It's unbelievably obnoxious coming from a professional background of achievement and dedication, determination, desire. Those are the things that made me a NFL first-round draft pick. I go to these doctors and I see these degrees on these walls, and they aren't worth a thing. Not worth a thing. They gave in and accepted this pathway to be in this club of people that are dictating healthcare in this country that have no clue what they're doing. I've seen psychologists after neurologists after neuropsychologists on these brain issues. One day of finding my strain, and it's not about getting high. And I don't have vertigo anymore. I'm not in and out of the ER anymore. I've cured my own neuropathy. The clock keeps rolling back on me, my family. My wife doesn't get skin cancers anymore after 10 years of having that. Not at all anymore. To my kids who take CBD daily and are the healthiest kids according to their doctors and pediatricians, and they refuse to give them the flu shot and I'd be damned if I'm going to give my kid to Bill Gates and this ridiculous COVID-19 serum that comes with a computer chip, because we don't need any of that. All we need is to understand the human body. We are being denied that opportunity.
Wow. Good stuff, man. Bob, any questions for Kyle?
Kyle, you talked about at length right after your career about not only the physical distress and pain you were in because you were broken down, and how cannabis has helped that. Has it also helped with your depression? Because you talked at length about that too, and really the two go hand in hand. You were beaten up both physically and mentally. Has the cannabis helped that as well?
100%. I mean, that's it. I mean, you wake up in the morning and you are motivated. You don't think about all the pain, all the injuries, the losses. That you're able to finally focus and think rationally and logically. It helps, again, put that cannabinoid system back into balance, and it starts here in the brain. CBD alone, which is 50 state legal, it answers anxiety and stress like nothing else. If you take it daily and you have anxiety and stress, you know what this does for you. If you take it daily, it's a quality product. It is undeniable, and it is across the board. This is a universal application for every human, mammal that has a cannabinoid system. And it's very real. The opportunities to recover your cognitive ability and make good decisions, and feel normal again. That this is in a plant is unbelievable, and unbelievable it hasn't been exposed more.
Good stuff, man. Brendan, any last questions for Kyle?
Yeah, Kyle, your teammate Ricky Williams has also been just a big advocate for cannabis over the years. What would your message be to someone who suffers from chronic pain, who's hesitant to try it?
Don't be hesitant. Jump in, man. I mean, what do you got to lose at the end of the day? And if you understand the science, you'll understand clearly it's not a whatever it takes type of a scenario here. This is very real, and it speaks to your body. If you put a truck stop CBD in your system, good luck. That's not going to give you the experience that I've now had with millions of people around this country and around the world. I started a CBD company 6 years ago. We mentioned I have a marijuana company as well. I'm trying to expose this to people and give them the opportunities. And CBD is 50 state legal. You can order it to your doorstep right now. And it will come to you. And if you take it daily, your life will change for the better, because not the pills or the tinctures or the gummies or whatever it is you order it in, because it's not about any of that other than getting that cannabinoid in your system to turn on this cannabinoid system. And if that happens and you do it daily, it's undeniable the things that will start to improve in your life. And it's your own body taking back and having the ability to take back control.
Let me ask you this. Have you had any of your former teammates or any other NFL players to kind of reach out to you for a consultation?
Oh, all the time. I mean, that's my duty now for the last 6 years since I've had this experience personally, is exposing this and getting that to my brothers and our family. I work with Mike Ditka going back to, not only was he an amazing influence in my life, drafted me that, I stayed with him. To this day, I could call Mike Ditka personally on his phone, and he's going to pick up and he's going to talk to me like a father, because I've worked with him on retired player efforts for the past 10 to 15 years now. That's my charge. It has been before I found this opportunity in cannabis, just to expose the things that were going on and how we needed help. And I was going to all those rehab facilities and opportunities that they have to go see these doctors and, try to figure this out and deal with this. And, that came with other medications and all these other things. And I've just been doing my best to expose the power of the cannabinoid system. Again, it's not about this plant. It's about what this plant speaks to and exposes, and try to educate players, and just people in general. I do educational nights at the locations that I sell my product at across the country. We book those, and I show up, and people by the hundreds want to listen. They want to sit down and understand this, because they're tired of being lied to. And I think at this point, everybody knows that that's what's going on. We're being lied to.
Right. Before we go into you telling us how to get your products or talking about how to be able to get the consultations, I need to ask you, did you were teammates with LaCharles Bentley as well? Yeah. All right. So I had an opportunity to interview LaCharles today. He has his O-line company, right? He's kind of mentoring guys from Pop Warner all the way. Now he has some guys who are about to retire from the NFL. Have you guys gotten together to kind of talk about how you could possibly help some of the players there with him?
I've consulted with him over the years. We all kind of try to stick together and reach out every now and then. Life happens. Everybody goes their way. Unfortunately, in the NFL, it's not like college or, your high school where everybody stays around the hometown. And everybody disperses across the country. And he's in Arizona. I'm in Southern California. Do a lot of work on the same lines, helping out the youth as much as possible, work at a few facilities, doing my thing, trench warfare. He's got O-line performance. There's so many guys out there with their, deals that Wally Williams, O-line and D-line training, to all the guys, man, everybody's getting back into it. And it's because we're able to start taking back control of our lives and have more control through understanding and being educated on what we should be putting in our bodies. We were unfortunately those, pharmaceutical guinea pigs over that late 90s, early 2000 era. Before now they put caps on all this stuff, and you can't just go to the trainers and get a quick fix answer. We've had to really go through the the trenches, if you will, of figuring this thing out. And so our ability to, pass that along to the next generation is critical. And, Charles does a great job. His entire staff does an amazing job that works with him. I'm here in Southern California, work with a tremendous amount of great coaches as well. And across the country, it's going on.
Good, good. We got one of our guys who want to know, how do they place an order with you?
Go to neuroxpf.com, Neuro, neuro, the brain.
Uh-oh. Lost Kyle right quick, guys.
Here it comes.
Give it to everybody in your family.
Okay,
people
Kyle,
for their birthdays and Christmas and everything else. Yes.
Yeah, we kind of lost you for a quick second.
Oh, we lost it
again. Neuro.
Go to NeuroXPF, Extreme Performance Fuel, NeuroXPF.com. All 50 state legal. You can order it to your doorstep, give it to somebody as a gift. Just however you want to try it, order what you want online there. The topicals are amazing. Again, I started this company not to make money. It's a premium product. I work with one of the only 10 fully licensed and credentialed facilities in the country in Colorado, where it all got started and this conversation really innovated. And I was fortunate enough to meet the best people in this industry, providing, the experience that if you take CBD daily, you're going to understand what CBD can do for you and what your body is capable of doing as far as recovering that you never thought was possible. Yeah, neuroxpf.com. And when you get it, take it daily. Don't be one of those people that, just expects this miracle like Vicodin did. And, when you get just all high and everything else, you might as well just go, do pills and, go get drunk or whatever, and I tell people all the time, I don't believe in the whole recreational side of cannabis. When people understand and continue to understand the ability of cannabis to apply so that you can do the number one thing, and that is get your cannabinoid system under control, you'll understand what this is about. And you'll be grateful and you'll tell everybody about it like I've been doing.
Good, good. I already got a text from Bob. He wanted to know if I will have that on their Christmas gift list. So
I need it.
Yeah.
I need it. I'm broken down.
Yeah, everybody does, man. Everybody needs it,
Yeah, Bob used to teach track. He was a track coach as well as he did pro volleyball, right, Bob?
Pro-Am beach volleyball, yeah. And many doctors, Kyle, and you've heard this many times throughout your career too. Not that I'm comparing the two sports by any means, but many doctors have compared beach volleyball tournaments to getting in 4 or 5 mini car wrecks per week.
Yeah, you guys are slamming yourself on the ground constantly, diving for those balls, man. It doesn't take much at the end of the day. The statistics are where it lies, and beach volleyball has had a suicide problem. BMX has had a suicide problem. Wrestling has had a suicide problem. Yeah. These sports where people don't really equate to the, football, they just don't understand the laws of motion. And it doesn't matter if you put a helmet on your head or a pair of sunglasses. The jarring nature of sport creates this brain injury, and it affects us all. And so across the board and in general out in society, people just need to understand the importance of getting their cannabinoid system back under their control. Again, as we age, we decrease in all of these different things from growth hormone to estrogen and all these productions of natural things in our bodies, the same as with cannabinoids. And if we can re-energize that in that cannabinoid system, you're going to discover the opportunity that your body was built for and what it's capable of how it can recover itself. You're a kid, you were like rubber and you bounced up and you just went back to it. That doesn't happen now because we stopped producing all of those things in our bodies that allowed us to jump back up. And from libido to all these other things, testosterone that's coming back, I can't say enough about cannabis. It is about getting your body back to its potential. You know, that we have to understand this. It's through diet, nutrition, and understanding the things we're putting in our bodies. I don't use any supplements anymore. No protein shakes, no vitamins, multivitamins, no branch chain amino acids. No, I try to find the foods that are providing those nutrients, and then using cannabis. I eat it, drink it, smoke it, everything that you could possibly think of, because I'm living proof, and it continues to showcase in my life every day. And everybody around me I introduce these processes to, that I've been able to figure out on my own. I was a guinea pig for Big Pharma, my time in the NFL and post-football. And now I'm my own guinea pig, and fortunate enough to be able to tap into this industry as well, to make sure I know what I'm using and continue to be able to provide that consistency to others.
Yeah, definitely, man. Well, Kyle, I know a lot of our fans are going to be out there listening to you and visiting your website as well. So let us know what we can do to help you guys promote. I don't know if SI is going to be too happy with me, but I'll try to do whatever I can to help you out.
Hey, Sports Illustrated just partnered with Select Brand CBD, Social CBD. It's a major CBD company, and Sports Illustrated is coming out with their own CBD line.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. They haven't told anybody yet, so I spilled the beans.
Yeah. we got
Breaking news on the Bayou Blitz.
These people see the dollars. They're going to provide a cheap product because they just think, oh, it's all CBD. They've done articles on it. They've interviewed me, but they just don't listen. So they're going to work with these subpar companies to provide some China-based, hemp extraction, and we'll keep making true medicine, and let them continue to expose it for us.
Cool. Now let me go back to that Aaron Brooks play, man. So Aaron was in that pile up. The Jets defensive back came over, started twisting his helmet. Take us through what you saw as Aaron's protector on that play.
Yeah, well, it's there on the film. They got a pretty good view of it. His head's getting twisted around like The Exorcist. And I heard a scream on the football field I've never heard before my entire football life. And I thought he was dead. I thought he broke his neck. And so, the Mongo in me came out, and I went after that guy to try to break his freaking neck, it was what it was. Again, that's how where I believe cannabis can apply. I was so quick to make bad decisions, and that's what happens in these moments, fight or flight on a football field. I've been able to take that, and if I could go back, I don't think I would have done it. The more control I've had from my emotional standpoint, that wasn't there back then. That's a good thing and a bad thing, especially when you lose football games. But if we would have won, I would have been the hero once again, because they praised me the week before from going up to St. Louis and coming back from a 24-point deficit against the greatest show on turf. And It was because Kyle Turley went crazy in the locker room, at halftime, and said, forget these guys. We can come back, and we're going to beat them. And, a few other things, and throwing some things around. Yeah, then the next week we lose to the Jets, of course, on that last drive because of my actions. And if we could just go back, and replay life in certain scenarios, we'd all be better people, but we wouldn't learn these great lessons. And it exposed a lot of good things for me of, people, and, put me down certain roads that made me who I am today. I'm pretty content with that.
Yeah. Life is not A, B, C, and it's not very linear as people try to make it out to be, So we have our life learning lessons, and hey, man, I think, and I applaud you for what you're doing, the business that you're in at this time. I was listening to Charles, and he said learning about business helped him out tremendously, because he thought he was just going to go in and, they're just going to listen to me because I'm a former pro athlete. He said, no, I had to learn some things about business, how to motivate people, how to talk to people, how to teach, So those are some of the things that I liked hearing from him, and I like hearing from you as well, because I know you've been on Capitol Hill a few times to kind of push some of these measures through, right?
Yeah, no, doing everything I can. I was supposed to go up to Capitol Hill 2 weeks ago when they first got back in session. I had an entire week booked up there of lobbying to pass through Matt Gaetz's bill that drops Schedule 1 status on cannabis, which is all we need to have happen so that we can have the research start taking place here in America that's taken place overseas, and all these studies that are proving the truth of cannabis. And so, yeah, I do everything I can. Again, this is not a game to me. This is not for money. I've done everything on my own dime, started my company to doing all my, advocacy work. I fly to all these conventions and all these things on my own dime. And what I built through my cannabis companies to help support that. And I'll continue to do that until this plant's set free, because at the end of the day, the people will never be free until this plant is free. That's the truth in it all. It is literally a line in the sand and in the concrete and everything else and every other analogy that is really there. And if people would wake up to understanding that this one thing, from social injustice to global warming to our healthcare, and all the statistics that lie in between that that are plaguing our community, understanding the ability that cannabis has to address all of those is paramount to our survival, period.
Awesome. Good stuff. Kyle, look, man, you are always welcome to come back on the program if you have, especially when your music comes out. As soon as it drops, let us know what we can do to help you promote it, as well as your business as well. Tell the people one more time how they can be able to find you on the World Wide Web.
All the social media platforms. I mean, I'm a day in and out of burying my phone in the backyard or throwing it off the end of a pier with everything going on. But you can find me on the Instagram, Kyle_Turley, Twitter, Kyle Turley, no underscore, just straight through. Just punch in Kyle Turley. I'm out there. I'm doing the thing, and go to kyleturley.com, and you can go to stream a lot of my music as well off of that, and then neuroxpf.com, and you can go and order CBD to your house, to your dorm, to your job. We have first responders. I did it THC free, so cops, firemen, anybody that has a drug test doesn't have to worry about testing positive. A lot of these companies don't do that, and I go out of my way to make sure I expose CBD strictly and what it does, not to distract you from any other thing of trying to understand other than that, and putting that THC thing on the shelf for the right time, which we're also doing, from other business standpoints, and trying to expose that. But not every state has that opportunity. So you can go to neuroxpf.com and, order CBD today. If you're not using CBD daily, then you're really risking your health at this time, in this, virus, whatever, if it's all real or true, who knows? At the end of the day, God put an incredible system inside of us, the immune system, that is in charge of how that unfolds for you. And nothing speaks to it more than cannabis in helping regulate that, because your cannabinoid system is the number one conduit. So neuroxpf.com, and then all those others, just throw the name out there.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, thank you guys so much.
One last question. What are your thoughts about this current Saints team?
We'll see, man. I don't know. Eminem's writing songs about Drew Brees now, and God, who knows, man? Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. This whole ridiculous thing going on. It's just unfortunate. There's an answer to this. We don't need to be in this scenario. We truly don't. People get upset with me because I'm saying this, but it's the truth. We really don't have to be in this scenario. So I don't know what's going to happen. I have no clue. I talk to my NFL contacts, and they don't have a clue. I talk to my military buddy contacts about all this stuff going on. They don't have a clue. It's there's I guess a few people out there who know what's going to happen, and we'll wait and see. At the end of the day, the Saints Nation is going to come to support online and or on their phones, or whatever, wherever they can. I do know that. And so the Saints will be well off because these other teams are going to completely lose that opportunity, I think, without these truly dedicated fan bases like the Saints enjoy.
Has the organization at any time reached out to you as alumni to come in, partake, or be a part of the Hall of Fame?
They did a long time ago, and I made a statement. I said I wouldn't come back until the pre-93 players were made equal. They still haven't done that, but they've made some strides this last year in the latest CBA to, get the pre-93 players up to some, sort of equality or better status and benefits. And so we'll see, but Mickey Loomis is still there. They never reached out. I haven't made any of their all-decade teams in a couple decades, so I don't anticipate that. The bridges I burned leaving the Saints, could still exist there significantly because they truly don't care. They don't reach out. And the only person who ever did was Jim Haslett. Man, I got a call from that guy when I blew my back out. I never thought that would be the first call I'd get from somebody. And, whenever I was in any of those situations, a few key people from the organization I stayed in contact with. But overall, I exposed too much of the things that were going on with the team that I still think sting to this day because, they were things that I don't forgive. I don't forgive what happened to me and what I saw happen to so many other players and having their careers affected by grown men that should have known better, that I was a young man who didn't. And it's unfortunate that we don't, have, enough people in those positions that can truly help players, through these difficult times. And, people like me have to be that resort to help reach out to these guys when, these owners and these individuals, these coaches have so much influence over young men's minds in those scenarios, and they just don't do it. Luckily, Sean Payton is one of those guys, I think, who truly cares about his players, is willing to be that mentor. But for the majority, it's just lost. It's a lost art. I was fortunate again to be in a different era, if you will, I guess. So overall, player-wise, coach-wise, the management and ownership thing that's always been there. Those guys are the business guys. But we'll see. Hopefully down the line here, I've played my music out in, outside the stadium, whatever you call that there.
Champion Square.
Yeah, that's right. Champion Square. Yeah. I don't like to say that because we would have had a championship with Jake Delhomme. All these things, if you could have, would have, should have, whatever. But we'll see, man, down the road. I definitely plan on bringing my family back to, that's the one thing I regret not taking advantage of with my son. And, who knows what's going to happen here of going back to a Saints game. I haven't stepped foot in the Superdome since I left.
Well, we got to change that. We got to make sure you come back, man.
I know,
a lot of fans still love you.
Yeah,
still love you.
I appreciate that. I got a lot of love. The Who Dat Nation. It's all love. You know what I mean? That's my heart and soul. That's where I grew up for the most part. Those were the most pivotal moments of my growing process in life. Coming out of college. And being there for those 5 years was just unbelievably pivotal. And I hadn't met my wife there. I'm still married to, and all these things and the great people I met along the way, and still stay amazing friends with even today. That's my second home. I'm retiring there. I will be retiring when the kids are out of the house. The wife and I are. You'll see me trucking around uptown, down the quarter. I don't know where we'll stay, where we'll live. I'm not sure. Somewhere on St. Charles. But you'll see me walking around like a Sasquatch, get a sighting.
Well, look, can't wait, man. Kyle, look, you've been a great guest. I appreciate you. You're always welcome back. Matter of fact, I'm going to reach out to you in a few months anyway, see how things are going. Okay? All right. Take care. All right. That was Kyle Turley, man. Hold on, let's see.
Oh,
Kyle, you said something?
Oh,
Okay.
am I back?
yeah.
Yeah, something happened there. I couldn't hear you. The connection got disturbed again. Yeah. No, I appreciate you guys having me, Matt. Thank you so much. Do that, and we'll see you guys again anytime.
Thank you, man. You take care.
All right.
All right, cool. How cool was that? Kyle Turley was in the house on the Bayou Blitz. Brendan, Bob, man, that was a good interview. What are some of your takeaways just right quick before we end the show?
Man, I mean, it was, Kyle, I hope, sorry about the technical difficulties there at the end. And, if you're still tuning in, thank you so much for joining us. Leave it to you to tackle off the field issues and life after football with the same kind of intensity that you attacked defenders with. And my God, I mean, it was so heartwarming. And I know you expressed some doubts, but I'm telling you, my friend, the large majority of Who Dat Nation still loves you and will always love you. You put everything you had into the football field for the New Orleans Saints and other teams too, but this is what we remember. And you are what sports should be all about, the intensity and the love of the game. That's what we remember, and that's what makes you a hero in all of our eyes. And thank you so much for everything that you've always done, for the Saints and for humanity in general now.
Yeah, he was always one of my favorite players, man. And I really felt bad when we let him go. Brendan, your thoughts?
I think just to echo Bob, to play at that level of intensity, to play the game, the quote unquote the right way, play the game with the joy of a kid. And you could see that with what Kyle Turley did throughout his career. And the way he would just say it wasn't difficult for him to make adjustments because he realized it's for what's best for the team. I have to be able to do this for the team. It's still a team game, and I think that's such a lost aspect. And he talks so much about what's been lost out of the game since he played there in the late 90s, early 2000s. So that was one takeaway. But two, man, we just got essentially a lecture about cannabis and CBD and got really well educated on that. It felt like I was sitting in college again, except it was a lesson on that. So, to be able to take that away and see what he's doing after football and how he's such a big advocate for that. And like I said, I know Ricky Williams, a former teammate of his, is as well. It's just nice to see he's just living life the way it's supposed to be, especially after some of the terrible things that happened injury-wise towards the end of the career, and then some of the things that happened right in the middle of the career, like Bob, you brought up the depression and how the injuries and depression go hand in hand. To see him attack that, get through that, it's quite remarkable.
Yeah. And one thing, he kind of touched on it briefly about his wife's skin cancer. That was real. And the CBD has been very instrumental in helping her get through that and conquering that. And his daughter also had some issues, and he didn't really go into details, but I know personally that has helped her as well. So CBD, guys, there's some good possibilities that we'll see more of that on the market. You see CBD shops popping up all across the country right now, right? So make sure you guys get the best stuff, the medicinal type of grade, I would say, instead of the trash grade. And you're going to have a difference. Yeah, there is a difference, right? All right, Paul T., who's the next Kyle Turley on the current Saints team? That's a good question. Who do you think that is? Who has that same type of passion and intensity? I have a thought on that. Who do you think it is, Bob?
Well, you know what? And everybody knows, everybody that follows my work knows what a fan of Ryan Ramczyk I am. And I think Ram is a potential Hall of Famer in the making. But when you talk about intensity, you look at the young man's reaction the night he was drafted just a couple of nights ago, and you turn on the film of him as with the Michigan Wolverines, Cesar Ruiz has that kind of intensity, when he plays football. And all the Saints linemen. I'm big fans of McCoy and Teron Armstead and obviously Ramczyk and even Andrus Peat. And these guys make up, in what my opinion is, the best offensive line from tackle to tackle in the NFL today, and it's not even close. But and I do even remember, and Kyle, it might have been you, raising comparisons from young Mr. Ruiz, taking us into a blast from the past. Just the type of intensity that he plays the game of football with, and that he carries himself with off of the field. It does remind you of Kyle Turley and what we love so much about what Kyle was on and off of the football field for the Saints.
Yeah. I have to agree, man. Ryan is a great guy, and I think what you see, the fun-loving side of Cesar Ruiz and what he was doing in that locker room, and you listen to some of the interviews, and when we had that interview with him, he was real serious in the interview with the media. But I really believe that we have a gold find in Cesar Ruiz. Okay. All right. So Paul T is going to order you some of that CBD to your doorstep. That's your boy, Paul T.
Paul, I love you. All those years of playing, my shoulder is shredded. I think I need a new knee, and I don't even want to talk about some of my vertebrae and my neck issues nowadays. I have aches and pains and muscles that I never even knew I had back then. So go back and listen to our interview with Kyle Turley tonight, folks. Again, he's not talking about smoking this stuff. He's talking about purely for medicinal purposes. And I'm not going to reiterate everything that he just said, because he gave us so much information. We don't have time to rehash it tonight, but definitely go back. And I mean, take it seriously. And Paul T, I'll give you my address, my friend, because I need it.
Okay, well, I'm going to leave that one alone. Brendan, anybody like Kyle Turley other than Ramczyk or Cesar Ruiz?
I can look at the defensive side of the ball and give you a guy that's like Turley. I'm going to say Cam Jordan, and just the intensity he plays with, the fun-loving guy, really has embraced the city and loves the city. You guys kind of stole the Ruiz thing, but I'd say Cam Jordan, if you're looking at the defensive line, just passionate, energy, big physicality, and he's got quite the personality as well.
Demario too, along that.
Yeah.
I have a guy. I'm going to throw this one out at you. CJ
Gardner Johnson,
man. Yeah. I mean, intensity. You know what? A lot of people forget after that playoff loss against the Vikings. Where was he? On that field, crying, emotional. You right? He wanted to win. That's what I love, man. You get those guys who want to win this game. It means something. It's not just about this. It's let's try to win this game. And they should have won that game, So, yeah, we could talk about that all day long. All right, guys. Brendan, what should the Who Dat Nation expect from you in the articles this weekend?
Oh, man, it's going to be fun. We're still doing our countdown to kickoff. So got 64 tomorrow, 63 on Saturday, and number 62 on Sunday. So they're going to be a lot of fun. So I thank you guys for keeping up with us there. We have two defensive players that are going to make a difference for the New Orleans Saints on the defensive side of the ball, but maybe two names you guys wouldn't expect that to be. That's what you should expect from me over the weekend.
All right. And Mr. Rose, what to expect from you, my friend?
Well, I hope everybody has been not only following, Brendan's series and Kyle and, Kyle's work and John Hendricks' work, but, my series as well. I've been calling it Eyeing Up the Enemy, doing a little bit of a preview of each of the Saints' opponents in 2020. So I'm down to the tail end of the regular season for that. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are the next. I've got the Chiefs and the Vikings to wrap up the regular season series. But tomorrow's piece on SI.com. Listen, everybody is talking about Alvin Kamara and when if the Saints should re-sign him and when that should take place, along with some of the other pending free agents that this team has. But I'm going to give you a player that I think that the Saints should prioritize over the great Mr. Kamara in tomorrow's piece. So stay tuned for that. And then obviously, in the days and the weeks to come, we're going to start to do our training camp previews, position by position, and some positional battles that Saints fans should keep an eye on. Because listen, like you said at the beginning of the show, Kyle, we're not able to cover it in the media in the way that we have in the past, but we're still going to give you some great coverage. So stay tuned.
Yeah, definitely. And well, I'll just end it on a different note. Brendan, tell everybody how they can find you on the World Wide Web.
Really easy. Everything's the same, whether it's Twitter, Instagram. I just got TikTok, though I don't really understand it quite yet. It's at BT Boylan, at BT BOYLAN. Did I sound old there, guys? Did I sound old?
Yeah, young man who just graduated. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it. I really don't. But it's at BT Boylan, at BT BOYLAN, and then of course everything at the Saints News Network. That's SI.com/NFL/Saints. Hope you guys are enjoying all the content that we're putting out there, and really looking forward to bringing you guys more and more as we hit training camp and the regular season as well.
Wow. Brendan, if you don't know how to use TikTok, I even know how to use TikTok.
I don't get it. Kyle, call me after. We can have a whole lesson on it.
Now you need to talk to my son. He got me involved.
All right.
But yeah, it's pretty interesting. And look, man, it gets billions of views every day. That's how powerful it has become. All right, Bob Rose, how everybody can find you on the World Wide Web, my friend?
Well, first, thank you again for everybody that tuned in to our show tonight. And thank you for your continued support. Thank you for Mr. Kyle Turley for joining us tonight. And I hope it's not going to be the last time. Kyle, thanks for everything that you meant to all of Who Dat Nation. So you're welcome back on the show at any time, your fam. As far as me, I can be followed on Facebook, Bob Rose, Twitter at BobbyR2613. Obviously we stream all of our articles and all my personal pieces through those two areas, but also through the Bayou Blitz Facebook group. And if you aren't already a member, it's real easy. Just type in Bayou Blitz Facebook group or Bayou Blitz on Facebook. It'll ask you to send a member request, but one of the three of us or a couple of the other administrators will see you and welcome you. And if you aren't already a member, you don't know what you're missing. We streamline all of our videos, all of our Bayou Blitz shows, and all of our articles first through there. And it's a real engaging group of New Orleans Saints fans with great questions, great insights, and great comments from almost every single member on there. And it's a growing family. If you are already a member, thank you so much for everything that you have done for us and our careers and what we try to do for you.
Awesome. Good stuff. Guys, this is a message for the Who Dat Nation. Stay positive, baby. Stay positive. I know a lot of political stuff has been hitting you. A lot of social information has been hitting you. A lot of some of our stars in the black and gold have been taking hits left and right. Like we mentioned, Drew Brees, Malcolm Jenkins. Well, look, all in all, this is football, and I want you guys to stay positive. We are going to come through this, and hopefully pretty soon we will see some New Orleans Saints football being played out, if not in the Superdome, on the training and practice fields. We'll see if we can be able to get some coverage for you guys there. But I just want people to just understand this is a time where we need to galvanize our efforts, support one another, and be able to understand one another as well. Instead of thinking that health issues are political, they are not. Health issues are what they are. Football is not political as well. It is what it is. But in the long run, don't forget to follow us at the Saints News Network at si.com/NFL/Saints for all the latest in Saints news in the Who Dat Nation. You can follow Bob Rose, John Hendricks, Brendan Boylan, and Dr. Cola Antoine, as well as myself, Kyle T. Mosley, at Saints News. And you can find us at Saints News on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. This is Kyle T. Mosley here with Bob Rose, as well as Mr. Brendan the Butler Boylan. You guys have a great night. Who dat, baby? And have a great weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.